Yo, what's up guys? Josh here, Magic Card Poker, and we're back at the Bellagio. So we're actually just here to get the credit card, but I might play a little bit of poker here if the games are good. After talking to Coach Arrow, he said it's probably better if I stick to 1-3 just because I'm making too many mistakes. And even at the Bellagio 2-5 streets where the buy-in is only 500, I feel like 3-bet pots get to like $75, $80 on the 3-bet versus like in the 1-3 streets, it's like $45, $50. So essentially, I feel like in the 2-5 streets, your mistakes get amplified. As you guys saw on a few of the hands I talked about last vlog, like I lost value on hundreds of dollars, and I also gave away hundreds of dollars misplaying my aces. So gonna for sure get the credit card. Whether or not we play, it's TBD. So yeah, gonna go head on in and get the credit card hopefully so I can get the free parking and then maybe play here or check out the Wynn or Resorts World. All right, so just wrapped up the session at the reward center. Positive EV session, we got the Pearl card. So yeah, we can get free parking at the MGM properties. So I was actually gonna play here, but then I texted my coach, Coach Arrow plays poker, and he was basically saying the 2-5 at Bellagio is like a short stack structure, and eventually I wanna learn how to play deep stacks. So I was like, okay, well, you mentioned I should stick to 1-3 after yesterday's session, and I'm trying to be a good student, right? So we're gonna actually go to Resorts World. I know I mentioned that sometimes I can get a little too DEGEN over there, but I feel confident with my play right now. Playing tight, playing right, playing in position, and aggressively. So yeah, let's just head on to Resorts World, check it out. There's 3 tables running right now, and then if it's no good, then we'll just go to the Wynn. And yeah, gonna head over to Resorts World. So we just got to Resorts World and ready to grind the session. I'm gonna just do the intro on my card. A bunch of helicopters flying around, but one crazy thing is like Bellagio's foot traffic is like 10 times to 20 times more than the Resorts World, or even 100 times. Like there's like way too many people like walking around compared to Resorts World, which is like pretty empty. But yeah, we're ready to grind the session. Just a quick note, I think the last 2 times I played at Resorts World, I actually started the session off doing pretty well, but then there was one major leak in both sessions, which I don't want to blame anyone, but Mario the dealer from the Wynn, the first time he convinced me to drink and then I played like shit, way too loose and aggressive when I got drunk off 3 drinks, 3 Jaeger bombs. Second time we ended up doing fucking like double board bomb pots. Just like it turned into a bomb pot game, and then yeah, I basically was actually up and then I was down and I basically broke even. Then I went over to the New Orleans, or not New Orleans, the Orleans, and punted off like $800. So this time we're going to play profitable poker. If Mario comes, which I don't think he will since I think he's working, I might just leave or table change or just not talk to him since, as a grinder, you got to treat this as a job, right? I know poker's fun, but it's more fun when you're winning, to be honest. Poker is not fun when you're losing. So yeah, I think for this session, I'm really just going to focus on playing right, playing tight, playing position, playing aggressively when I have it, folding when I don't. All the stuff I know what to do, but I just can't seem to implement when I get too loose or tilted. So yeah, with that being said, let's head on into the Resorts World and hit the 1-3 streets of the casino. All right, so as you guys saw, we secured the MGM Pearl card, and now we're back at our stomping grounds, Resorts World 1-3, max buy-in $400. In the first hand we're going to cover, I'm in the big blind with 3-2 offsuit. There are 3 limpers, and then I go ahead and just check my option, not looking to put more money in this pot with the dirty diaper. The flop comes 4-5 jack rainbow, so that's actually pretty decent for us. We have an open ender. However, I go ahead and just check just because there's no reason to bet here. The low jack now bets $15. The hijack folds, the cutoff calls, and I actually come along, just float one time to see if I can hit the open ender, and the under the gun gets out of the way. The turn comes the ace of clubs, so we bink the straight. I go ahead and check, planning to check raise. Since you guys know if there's a slow play route, I'm taking it. Haven't learned my lesson yet to not slow play every time. Unfortunately, the action checks through. The river is another 5 pairing the board, but I still think that my hand's the best one since I don't really think anyone has a full house here. So I go ahead and bet $20 for value. The hijack calls. The cutoff now raises to $60, which isn't a huge sizing, so I go ahead and just make the call for $40 more, and the hijack folds. The cutoff shows 10-5 offsuit, so he has trips on the river, and we take it down. I actually think me checking the turn got me more value since it allowed my opponent to catch up in this hand. Why this guy was playing 10-5 offsuit, I'm not sure. I think he just wanted to see a lot of hands, but nonetheless, happy with the result. And you know what they say, big blind special. All right, so as you guys can see so far, this table dynamic is pretty good. We have a lot of action. People are seeing hands, and we're just patiently waiting for our spot to strike. And this next one seems it. So at this point, I'm actually up like, $100 or $200, pretty short in the session, hoping to make it a quick one. I have a tendency to play shorter sessions when I win early and then longer sessions when I'm in the hole. Probably not a good idea, to be honest, to be playing longer when you're, down and probably playing worse, and then playing shorter when you're up and playing better. So I'm on the button straddle for $6. There are 4 limpers to my straddle. When I look down at king queen suited on the button, so I bump it up to $20, and the big blind decides to just cold call the 20, as well as the rest of the players who called my initial straddle. So now we're going 6 ways to the flop of king 7-9 with the spade draw on board. Big blind under the gun and low jack checks. The hijack now shoves for his remaining $25. The cutoff flat calls his shove. I go ahead and raise to $65 to try to isolate the hijack, just because normally I would play these type of situations with caution. However, I just feel like with a relatively safe board, I know that it's somewhat connected. However, there are no made straights yet, and having top pair with the second strongest kicker possible, aside from any 2 pairs, I just felt like I was good here. The big blind gets out of the way, and now the kid in under the gun shoves for $262, which is very strong. The action folds over to me, and I don't know why, but sometimes when I have like a strong hand which is not nutted, alluded to this in previous episodes, I just get scared and I end up making the fold here. The turn comes a 9 of clubs and the river comes a jack of clubs. The initial guy who shoved, who's the hijack, shows ace 8 offsuit, so I think he was just trying to, I guess, go home, leave the table. And then the undergun actually shows ace 2 of spades, so he had the nut flush draw, which bricked. So these two actually ended up chopping this hand, I believe, since they both had a pair of 9s with the king jack ace, so their kickers in play. And I texted Coach Arrow about this hand, and he told me I should have definitely called the all-in. He said that no one is doing this with a made hand in this spot. It's definitely a flush draw. And yeah, I mean, I was very disappointed in myself in the moment for this play. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Whenever I make a play like this where I have the best hand and I get folded out and it's like a bad fold, it's hard for me to like focus and forget about the hand. So we lose this one, and then I think this puts us back to even for the session. I know that I shouldn't be as results oriented, but I feel like I'm still in the stage where it does kind of matter to me how I'm doing in the session. But I'm hoping as I play more poker and get more hours in, it becomes kind of irrelevant, just, more robotic in a sense where, you're not really results oriented. But definitely misplayed this hand. Should have for sure called the all-in against this player type. It was like a, yeah, I know I'm not, I'll probably get roasted for trying to make a live read again, but it was like a younger guy, his girlfriend was watching. He seemed there to gamble. It wasn't like an OMC type of guy who probably was just super nutted. So yeah, we lose this one, and on to the next hand. Okay, so in this next hand, the hijack opens to $8. He was opening very small. I think he might have been someone that plays online or something, or like a GTO guy. Very small open size, so the button calls, small blind calls, and I look down at pocket 5s and make the call as well, looking to set mine. The flop comes 2-2-6, so it's a decent flop for us. We only lose to really any overpair 6 or 2. So the small blind checks, I go ahead and check out of position. The hijack checks as well, who's the original raiser, and the button now bets $15. So a little less than half pot. The small blind gets out of the way. I go ahead and decide to peel one here, so I make the call, and the original raiser folds. The turn is now 5 of spades, completing the flush. However, it does give us a boat, so I go ahead and check, and then the button bets $25. And I checked planning to check raise, so thankfully he bet, and I go ahead and bump it up to $60, and he makes the call. The river is a queen of hearts, and for whatever reason, I just down bet to $30, which is such a small bet here. Maybe it was because I was talking to the guy in the moment and I was feeling friendly, or I just really wanted to get called. But I go ahead and bet 30, and he calls pretty quickly. He shows 9-8 suited for a flush. And yeah, we take this one down, but I do not like my river sizing. I think on the river, I need to be betting at least a third pot here. I don't need to go crazy and overbet, but I definitely think I lost out on value since what is this guy calling on the turn when I check raise to fold on the river, right? Like the only thing I can think of is he has like one spade there, but it's already a paired board. So I just feel like he already had a pretty strong hand that was like a made hand, which means I probably could have got more value here, but I didn't think about this in the moment. This is just kind of after the fact, me thinking about it while analyzing the hand. So happy to take this one down, but definitely lost out on value with how I played it. All right, so in this next hand, it's already getting pretty late in the session. We're about 6 hours into play, and we've been really just hovering like down a few hundred here. Couldn't really recover from, losing that one hand I misplayed with king queen, and then I lost a few more hands. So yeah, I think at this point it's like short-handed. Like I'm playing way too many hands. Definitely needed to tighten my range up, which you guys will see me having a loose range in 2 hands. But in this hand, I played fine, I think. You guys can be the judge of that. So basically we're short-handed and the hijack and cutoff both limp to me. I looked down at pocket jacks in the button, so I bump it up to $20. And the reason I chose 20 was because there are 2 limpers, so I just make it bigger, over the limpers. And then the small blind calls, so he cold calls the 20. The big blind folds. The hijack calls, who's a short stack guy. And then the cutoff gets out of the way. Flop comes 4-6-6 with 2 hearts, so this seems like a pretty safe board for me. So when the small blind and hijack check over to me, I go ahead and just bet half pot $30 to charge any heart draws and start building the pot. The small blind folds and then the low jack jams for $64 and I just snap it off. Turn's a king, river is another king, and he shows ace-6 suited, so he got trips on the flop and then turned into a boat. Fortunately, the damage was minimized as he was short stacked, but we lose this one. All right, so a few minutes later, we have a hand where under the gun limps. The low jack guy who was opening to really like specific sizing, who I had the hypothesis that he played online primarily, or was like a GTO, like European guy, or just, first time playing live poker, but he opens at $14, so a very specific amount. The hijack calls, the cutoff call, the small blind gets out of the way. I look down at pocket fives in the big blind, so I make the call planning to set mine, and then the under the gun calls as well. The flop comes 2 queen 2 with the diamond draw on board. I go ahead and check just because there's no reason for me to bet out of position and build the pot when I'm losing to any overpair and a queen. The under the gun and low jack also check. The hijack now bets $15, which is a very small sizing here. The cutoff folds, and I go ahead and just make the call one time just to float. I feel like on these paired boards, sometimes these small c-bets feel like weakness, so I just thought I was good here. And then the under the gun and low jack get out of the way. The turn comes a 4 of hearts, so I go ahead and check again, and the hijack bets $20. I feel like I'm still beating any 4 that would have hit, and he could still be doing this with air, maybe like a diamond draw or like ace king. So I go ahead and make the call again for $20, going nowhere here. The river is a lucky 2 outer, so we hit the 5 and boat up. And now I go crazy for some reason. I bet $110, just going absolutely berserk, and the guy tanks for a little bit, then he just makes the fold. He claims he had pocket kings here. I think I missed out on value again. I feel like in this situation, if I'm gonna donk bet, I need to donk bet a lot smaller so that the price is right versus like such a polarizing bet, or I just check raise him, like just check and then he bets and then raise him. But yeah, this donk bet was like, I don't know why I have this tendency to just like go so insane when I'm like pretty much have the nuts. I only lose to like pocket queens and pocket 2s, right? So I have the 3rd nuts here. Also, the diamond draw got there as well. I feel like had this been like a non-diamond 5, maybe I could have done this line. It seems more bluffy. Like I missed the diamond draw, but the freaking diamond draw got here. So it's actually, it would have been a really good bluff card for me if I didn't have a hand. But yeah, the guy claims he folded pocket queens, which is a great fold, but I don't blame him since I bet so much. Like it made it pretty easy for him to fold. So we definitely lose out on value yet again. All right, so in the last notable hand of this session, a few minutes after the pocket 5's hand, our friend in the cutoff, who's a full-time player, he opens at $15. I look down at Jack 9 offsuit on the button, so I make the call. The small blind comes along and the big blind gets out of the way. We always do a flop of 10 queen 10 rainbow, so we flop an open ender. The small blind checks. The cutoff now continuation bets for $15. We go ahead and make the call at their open ender, and the small blind comes along as well. The turn is probably the best card possible. It's an 8 of hearts, so we get the open ender. We have the straight now. Although we still lose to ace jack, we're pretty confident about our hand, especially when the action checks over to us. We go ahead and bet for $25. The small blind gets out of the way, and our friend in the cutoff makes the call. The river is a 4 of hearts, now completing the flush draw. So when my friend checks over to me, I go ahead and downsize to $20 for value, and he quickly makes the call. I show my hand, and we're good. Really don't like how I played this hand. First off, this is a fold pre-flop. Jack 9 offsuit's not a good hand, especially when I know my friend's a full-time player who pretty much plays GTO. Like, I'm absolutely crushed in this situation. Perhaps you can make the argument that I could make this call against someone who might make mistakes post-flop. But even then, like Jack 9 off, Jack 10 off are just not good hands. And I don't even think I had the button straddle on this hand, so I can't make that mistake. I started recording after the pre-flop action, so I actually don't know. But let's just take accountability and say I didn't have the button straddle on, since then I can justify a little more. But if I had a straddle, he probably would have opened bigger, so I don't think I had it. The second mistake I made was the turn bet was way too small. Let's say he did have a heart draw, like a backdoor heart draw. I need to charge that shit, so I should have bet $50 or more here. You know, Arrow was always telling me to bet more. One of the common mistakes I make with my bet sizing is I tend to bet way too small when I need to bet big, and then I bet too big when I need to bet small. So in this case, I should have bet bigger. Because even like ace jack, right? Let's say he floated with ace jack of hearts or something, then you know, I'm drawing to get dominated. Like if a 9 comes in, then I'm screwed, right? He stacks me or like gets a lot of my stack. So turn bet, mistake number 2. Mistake number 3 is my river bet was also way too small. Like I understand that I'm trying to get value, but I think I could have sized up to 1/3 pot, $40, $45 here, maybe even $50. But I have a tendency to be less aggressive against my friends. Although I know if the roles were reversed, you know, he doesn't take it easy on me because he's like a full-time pro. So this is his income, right? And I feel like in general, like that's just a bad habit of me of being like a nice guy when I'm playing against friends. Something I need to snap out of because I do end up like talking to people when I play and stuff. Poker is like a social game. However, it's weird because I feel like when I'm in like full grinder mode, I can play better because I'm just like not really paying too much attention to like the table talk dynamic. I'm not trying to make like random live reads and stuff. But then when I become too friendly, try to make live reads, that's when I make mistakes and miss out on value. Whew. All right, guys, we just finished our 8-hour session here at Resorts World. Honestly, if I made that call with the king queen hand and then won that pretty big pot, it probably would have been a really short session because I would have been up like $400 within an hour and a half or 2 hours. But of course, we didn't make that call. Started running a little worse. Played a little worse middle of the session. We were in the hole for like $500 at one point, but then we were able to crawl out, and I think I was only down like a little under 300. So that's honestly a win just because towards the end of the session, we're shorthanded. I started winning some sizable pots. So yeah, gonna head to Denny's, eat with one of my friends who's a full-time grinder here in Vegas. And then we're gonna probably check out Westgate since we heard there's a pool convention, you know, like the sport billiards. So hopefully there's some juicy action there at the 1-2 table. And if it's not good, then might go to like Bellagio Aria. So can go there now that I have the MGM card. Super degenerate day. We'll see if I split this vlog into 2 parts just based off how many hands I put in the first part. But yeah, guys, this is gonna be a day of poker. This is what it's all about. I think I just had too much caffeine, honestly. I had like a sugar-free Red Bull and like 4 green tea with honey and some diet soda. So we're buzzing. We're buzzing on caffeine. All right, currently walking to the Denny's. I think the part I enjoy the most about poker so far is just, you know, each session is a new session. So it's kind of like how in life, right? If you like kind of mess up, then you go to sleep. The next day is a new day, right? I feel like with poker, if you have a bad session, the next session is a completely new session, totally outcome independent, which is why, you know, for me, you guys saw when I was running really well, I got cocky and overconfident and started playing poorly. And vice versa, when I play poorly, the next session I'm really motivated to play better. So yeah, that's why I'm pretty excited to get breakfast with my grinder friend and then hopefully hit the streets again and then hopefully hit the 1-3 streets again or 1-2 streets if we go to Westgate. But yeah, I'll keep you posted. All right, so the plan is actually to go to the Wynn just because Westgate only has 1 table going with 2 on the waiting list. But first I gotta stop by Resorts World since I was having them reprint my player's card and left my ID at the cage. So gonna get my ID or driver's license and then head over to the Wynn.
A few moments later.
All right, so license secured. Now we're headed to the Wynn to hopefully book a win. So as you guys saw, we just booked a loss at Resorts World, but yeah, we're feeling good after breakfast. So definitely gonna try to tighten my range and just play my game. I felt like at Resorts World, honestly, I played well to start out and then kind of played a little worse after that king-queen hand. then recovered a little bit at the end. So looking to book a win here at the win. And the last few sessions have gone well, so I think we can do it. But only time will tell, so stay tuned to see what happens. All right, so it turned out that there was only one game running at the Westgate, and there was a list. So my buddy and I decided to go to the win. However, I got coolered since I forgot my driver's license at Resorts World since I was making a new player's card. So I had to drive all the way back to Resorts World to get my license, which was actually like more time consuming than I anticipated. I had to like talk to the security guy and then he had to confirm my ID. Makes sense because it's a casino, but what this led to was there was apparently a spot open and my friend sat down already, but then I was too late by like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, so I had to wait for a new game to open. That should have been my sign to leave when I waited like 30 minutes for a new game to open at freaking 9:30 a.m. But you know me, I'm a degenerate sometimes. So anyways, here we are. First notable hand, 10:05 a.m. So we're about 30 minutes into the session or so. We're playing pretty well, I'd say, up until this point. Per usual, I feel like the first hour or so I don't really make too many mistakes. So the under the gun +1 limps. We look down at ace king offsuit from the cutoff, so we bump it up to $20. The button cold calls, the two blinds get out of the way, and the limper makes the call. Flop comes 7 king 5, all diamonds. We do a quick diamond check. Looks like we have the ace of diamonds. So when the under the gun +1 player checks over to us, we go ahead and bet $25 as a value bet to start building the pot since we think we have the best hand here. The button calls. The under the gun +1 now raises to $90, which is quite a sizable check raise. I go ahead and make the call because I have the ace of diamonds. However, I gotta tread cautiously for the rest of the hand and the button gets out of the way. So the pot is brewing and the turn is a 5 of hearts now pairing the board, but the action goes check, check. The river comes a 9 of diamonds, so we do end up hitting the nut flush. However, the under the gun +1 player now shoves all in for $250, which is just under a pot size bet. Honestly, in the moment, I was just thinking like this guy has a full house, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't find the fold button, probably because I'm freaking so fatigued. I also had just 8, so I was like kind of tired actually. Pro tip, don't eat right before you play. Coach Arrow has talked about that. It just makes you tired. Especially don't eat when you're at the table. That's a pretty common practice for some people who grind long sessions. But yeah, we make the call and you can hear the audio.
Full house.
I'm just like, do you have the full house? And he's just like, yep. So he basically flopped 2 pair with 5-7 suited, turned the full house, played really well actually. He checked the turn and let me catch up, and then I paid him off in the river. I talked to Coach Arrow about this. I feel like in this spot, I either need to just shove the flop, or if I'm gonna take the line I did, just fold the river. I'm not really beating much. Like, what is he shoving there that I'm losing to? Like, this guy didn't seem like he was going out of line at all. Like, freaking 10 a.m. win crowd. Do you think there's any maniacs? Like, I would say the 10 a.m. win crowd was not the most crazy at this point in the session. So everyone is playing pretty tight and nothing out of line. So I think this is just an easy fold in hindsight against this player type. But, we're already like 9 hours into the day of playing poker. Probably should have just went to sleep. And yeah, this is the first mistake and big loss of the session, putting us quite deep in the hole. At this point, we're probably down or $500, but the session just gets worse from here. So in hand number 2, the under the gun limps. We look down at 4-2 suited, and for whatever reason, we're in the low jack, lay-ish position. We bump it up to $18. Small blind gets out of the way. The big blind calls, and the under the gun limper comes along. Flop comes 9-8 ace with 2 clubs. So we absolutely have none of this. We have like no draws really, except for a runner straight, not even a runner hearts. However, when the 2 players check over to me, I go ahead and c-bet to rep a strong hand and just hopefully just take this pot down with pure aggression. So I bet $30, and it looks like both opponents got a piece of it since they both come along. The turn is a 5 of hearts, now actually giving us a gut shot. So now that I have actually a chance, when the action checks over to me, I go ahead and just check as well. And the river does not bring the dream as the 10 of diamonds, now making the board super wet for any Broadway type holdings. With 4 high, I'm not winning this pot, so I go ahead and fire for $120, which is just over a pot size bet. And the big blind quickly calls, the under the gun folds, and we just muck our hand. However, maybe in the moment it would have been good advertising, although I think it was pretty apparent that I was tilting with my VPIP, voluntary put in money percentage. So yeah, we lose this one. As you can see, we're just playing like shit. This is never an open. I don't know what I was doing. I think at this point I was just probably tilting from the ace king hand. I've noticed when I play super long sessions, it takes just like one bad play to like tilt me. Whereas if I'm fresh on a session, I can make the same mistake and I probably won't get tilted, at least not as easily. So that's just one thing I wanted to like point out here, which is why I should have just listened to Coach Arrow, who just told me to go home, but your boy didn't listen. So in this hand, we're short stacked. We have $95. We're under the gun with ace king suited, so we limp, planning on just limp shoving. Under the gun +1 and low jack, get out of the way. Fortunately, the hijack takes the bait and bets $25. The cutoff folds, the button calls, so now we have 2 callers. The small blind folds, and the big blind also calls, so now we have 3 callers. Perfect for my shove, so I shove, hijack is out of the way, but the button and big blind both make the call. The action ends up just checking down, so I'll just give you guys the run out. King, jack, 2 diamonds, so we flop top pair with the flush draw. Jack of spades and then queen of diamonds, so we hit the nut flush. Really only losing to any full house at this point. Big blind shows pocket eights and the button mucks. So we triple up and take down this pot of just over $300. This would have been a great time actually for me to just leave in hindsight, because yeah, I was down like probably 400 or 500 at this point, but it was only like 1 buy-in worth of damage. But you know, I have a problem leaving in these situations, so obviously my butt is glued to the chair at this point, and we live to see another hand. All right, so in the next hand, the straddle's on under the gun for $6. I'm in the low jack and look down at 6-4 offsuit and make the call for some reason. The cutoff calls, and then the small blind, who was the guy from the first hand who stacked me, or I doubled him up. Actually, he didn't stack me technically, but I doubled him up. He raises his $26. One note is he actually did kind of loosen up. I think he lost a pretty big pot at some point. It's kind of weird. I feel like in general, you know, the first hour or two of play, no one really does anything crazy, but it just takes like a few coolers to just like have people go kind of insane, including myself in this session. But yeah, he was definitely playing way looser and more aggressive after he lost a few big pots. But he raises the $26. The big blind folds. The undergun straddler defends the straddle. I call, and the cutoff also comes along. Flop comes 2-10-5 rainbow, so relatively dry flop. We do have a gut shot. When the small blind bets $30 and the undergun calls, with a gut shot and a dream, I also make the call, and the cutoff folds. The turn is a queen of hearts, not changing too much. It just puts a heart draw on board, and any ace queen or king queen or whatever gets there. So now the small blind sizes up for $120, which quickly gets the undergun to fold, and then it ends my dream of hitting the gut shot is I get out of the way. As you can see, should not be playing this hand pre-flop. I don't know why I was even involved. I feel like tilt levels were off the roof at this point. Was not playing profitable poker, was just gambling. So I do not approve this play at all. Another reason why I'm saying I should have just left when I tripled up with the ace king hand, but clearly I didn't. And yeah, at this point, you know, we're pretty much short stacked. Even though it actually wasn't even that short stacked, I think like I still had like $200. I was like hovering between $150, $200. This last hand I'll show is just an example of like what I was doing, which is I limp from the low jack with ace king offsuit, hijack and cutoff calls, button raises at $20, I shove, everyone folds. So I was basically just doing a shoving strategy, even though this was actually not the right play since I had like $200, right? That's actually like half a buy-in at Resorts World. For some reason in my head, I was thinking I was short stacked, maybe because the win buy-in's $500. So I was playing like a short stack, like shoving strategy. Or I just tilted, but yeah, eventually I did end up losing, and I didn't get the hand on camera since my glasses died, but yeah, we lose this session, and this is a important lesson to learn. There's a few things we can learn here. Number one is to not misplay your hands, just fold pre-flop. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, number one is don't linger on your hands. I think that first session at Resorts World, I was lingering on that king queen hand where I had the best hand and I folded. And I've noticed that sometimes when I make the bad fold, I can't stop thinking about it in the session. And that's just a good sign for me to wrap up the session, because I'm gonna let that past hand affect my current and future decisions, which is not what you want to do. In general, you want to analyze your hands after the sessions. You know, mistake number one was just kind of like dwelling in the past. Mistake number two was playing another session after playing a marathon session. I needed to play shorter sessions. Nothing really good happens after the 6-hour mark. Even in the win I had at the Resorts World where I played 13 hours and had my biggest win, a lot of that was attributed to luck, not good play. So I think that's just like testament to like after a certain mark, you just lose focus, right? At least I do. I don't have that genetic capability or talent that lets me grind for like 12+ hour marathon sessions. I think most people don't. It's better just to break it up into smaller sessions per Coach Arrow's recommendation. So that was mistake number 2. Mistake number 3 was eating a massive like pancake meal before playing. Like the last thing I need to do is just eat a bunch of sugar and carbs before playing a game where you want to just be like peak focus. So that was mistake number 3. And then mistake number 4 was not leaving when I get tilted in the moment, right? So a little related to number 1, but I feel like number 4 was worse because it was like I got beat in the pot where I made a bad decision and I kind of knew it was a bad decision. And I felt myself tilting. I think that's the difference. I think in session number 1, I didn't really feel myself tilting super hard, whereas I was like fuming on the inside during the win session, just trying to get my money back. And anytime you have that like chasing your losses mentality, that's just gambling. And the truth is, poker is a game of patience, discipline, mental fortitude, self-improvement, Marines. Marines ad, no, I was kidding. But in all honesty, poker is a game where you need to be focused, you know, pick and choose your battles, wait for your spots, play properly, and just wait for others to make mistakes. And that's how you win money. Clearly in this session, in both sessions, I made a ton of mistakes, and that's why I lost on the day. So we end up down like 900 something this session. And yeah, pretty big losing day for your boy. But you know, we'll cue the outro. Yeah, that was a very brutal session. Yeah. So lesson learned to never grind overnight again, which you'd think I'd learned from the Orleans session, but I just wanted an epic story. And yeah, I think it just all started going downhill after that ace king hand you guys saw, which was fucking brutal. I honestly should have got away from it on the river, because like anything that raises me on the flop gets there. And if he had made a lower flush, he probably would have bet the turn as well. So yeah, I'm just really tired. You know, lost 950 just now in like less than 3 hours. After that hand, I just kind of tilted, played way too loose. Yeah, I think like this day could have been so easy if I just made that king queen call earlier at Resorts World. Would have been up $400 in like an hour and a half. But that's just the game of poker, right? I think what I've learned is I just have to just play shorter sessions, and then you know, like today with the Resorts World session, I think I wasn't satisfied with my loss, so I wanted to try to get a win. But I feel like with poker, you just can't force it, because for me, I think there's like a solid like there's like a solid 5 to 6 hours that I play really well per day, and then it just kind of just goes south real quick, especially if I get coolered or like tilted or something. So I guess on the bright side, I feel like I still have a bankroll, so I can still continue the journey. But on the downside, I pretty much wiped away all the gains, plus some from the past 2 nights, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, that's just the game of poker. You know, obviously I still have a lot to learn and a long way to go, but you know, lesson learned to just never go past my limit. Which when I texted Coach Arrow, he's like, what the fuck? How are you still playing? But I shouldn't have been playing, right? I should have just went home after Denny's, which I had the chance to because the game wasn't even started yet. And I had to wait like 30 minutes for them to start a new game. So there was a chance for me to go home, but I didn't. So yeah, guys, I think that's going to conclude this vlog. Unfortunately, it didn't end on a good note, but you know, at least you guys get to see me play some really bad hands and hopefully get some entertainment value out of it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Like, how do you guys deal with tilt? I feel like for me, it's just been like a very constant battle this past week. Typically due to like super long sessions or getting drunk or whatever, but yeah, this week was just not good for me. So looking forward to hopefully next week being a better one. And the cool thing about poker, right, is every session's its own independent event. So just got to go back to the drawing boards and, you know, go from there. See you guys in the next video.